Howdy, y'all. We're gonna finalize this mix and master on this song today, and I almost kind of skipped this part with you guys on the last stream because latency issues. This takes a lot of plugins. It takes a lot of finesse. It takes a lot of focusing, and I don't usually like talk through this part. But I'm going to do my best to share this part with you guys, which is kind of finalizing the mix, gain staging, the master bus and the mix buses, and just kind of shaping the overall tone for the final bounce. Okay. This is in Pro Tools, and we're mixing, we're mastering, and this stream is really going to be focused on mastering. And I hope that this stream will kind of clarify what mastering really is, right? Because I think a lot of people don't understand mastering. And mastering is a very simple thing to understand once you know what it is. So I'll kind of like explain mastering as I go through this stream. I'll explain it in more detail for the mediums that we're going to be making our final bounce for, right? And if you guys get anything out of this stream or any of the content on this page on the YouTube channel, please share it. Please drop comments, thumbs up, like it, engage with the content. That's all I ask. And if you really want to support the channel and you want me to do more live streams and be consistent with live streams, then consider maybe, super chatting the channel when you get something out of it. Drop $5, $10, probably spend more than that on a coffee nowadays, right? So if I give you some game, I just ask that you play your role. If you're broke as fuck, I get it. Just share the show, drop a comment, show some love. All right. So let's get right back into it. And we're going to be in Pro Tools. Obviously, we've been in Pro Tools this whole series. And if you haven't already, I did 4 live streams on this song already. So you can watch the whole process of going through, from beginning to end, like bringing in the stems, setting up and routing stuff, treating the drums, treating everything, the vocals, guitars, etc. All right. So try to make this as valuable as possible for you guys. So please just, show some love, some consideration. And if you're here right now, don't be a creep. Don't sit on the live stream and be like, I'm just going to soak up game. Like, say hi, ask questions, introduce yourself, because it's already weird to fucking get online and stare at a camera and mix a record. It's weird, okay? It took me years to get comfortable enough to just even sit here and do this with you guys. So I ask that you be a normal human being and say what's up and be kind, If you guys have questions at all, drop your questions in the chat. All right, so here's where we're at right now, okay? So we have this track. It's by Ryan Helm, and it is called Time and Space. When I open up the track, I always want to save as, right? First thing I always do, or I try to always do. I don't always do. I'm just going to save it as today's date. I change the version number when I have to do any revisions for the client, okay? So I'm going to call this 05/09/2024, which is today. And this is V1. This is my first version, right? All right, that's saved. Now, what we're going to be doing today really is focusing on the master bus and tweaking the final kind of touches on this, which takes fresh ears. My ears are pretty fresh. I was producing earlier today, but I took a good long ear break and everything, so I'm good with that. And we really want to, when we go to the master bus, we want to focus on probably the loudest part of the record, which is here at the end. And you can see it in the reference, right? But let's just kind of play a little bit of this to remind you what we're dealing with. So here's the reference, and I'll bounce from the reference to my mix and master right now, okay?
You came down to take
right, so the loudest part right now, just off what I played, is right around, it's hitting around like -7 and -8 LUFs. And I'm paying attention to that on the SPL Hawkeye, the LUFs here. Now, I think that that's a great place for this record, but I think it's going to be a little louder if we go to the loudest part. So let's just see. We should be hitting right around -7.5. I think if I can get between -7.5 and -6, that's going to be a great spot for this style of music and this type of record. Lots of dynamics still left in there. Very competitive. It's going to stream really well. It will barely get turned down a little bit if you have on Spotify the checkbox of making sure that everything stays level or whatever. But it's going to be very competitive for this style of music. So I always pay attention to that, right? If I'm doing like EDM, Skrillex kind of stuff, yeah, you got to go a lot louder. The LUFs, the LUFs have to hit like around -3, you know, -4, around there. And some artists will want to just like clip out their shit really hard. This is not that. Absolutely not that at all. Okay, so we want to keep this pretty open. So what I'm paying attention to here as I'm messing with the master bus is I'm paying attention to the LUFs here. I'm also paying attention to the correlation, right? I should have this much wider than the reference, right? So you'll see stuff coming out of the sides, out of phase and stuff, right? Which is fine. We're in stereo. We want it to be stereo. That's cool. We like that. And if you want it to be like really mono compatible, just switch your monitoring to mono and see if it folds down nice, right? Like, are you missing anything? Oh, no? Okay, cool. You're fucking good. Like, I get all these questions about mono still. It's like, it's 2024. You guys got to stop beating that shit up. We have 2 ears, right? We hear things in stereo. We always have 2 speakers no matter what. People even will say like, oh, what about the phone? The phone is in stereo, motherfuckers. Like, even when you play off your phone on your iPhone, it's stereo. All right? So quit the shit. Quit the mono shit. Ah, but that's not going to be compatible in mono. It's not going to be compatible in mono. You guys sound like weird fucking birds. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. If you're so worried about it, hit the mono button. Check it. Okay? Cool. I don't want to talk about that anymore because it drives me fucking nuts. People that know nothing at all about mixing or mastering, they're asking about, what about mono? Shut up. All right, we're not in 1992 anymore, okay? So I'm going to just play this and I'm going to look at the LUFs. I'm going to pay attention to this also. Like, is there anything building up in the frequencies? You can see there is quite a bit right here in this, 500 to 750 area. That's great. I like that about this record. I think this record is nice and round and warm, and I like that. I'm going for that. So I'm paying attention to that stuff. I'd be worried if I saw stuff up here that was all sparkly and, going crazy up here, right? In like the 2K area and above. Like, I'd be like, oh, that's can't happen. This should be a warm record. I'd be worried if like the low end was like way up here at 0 and we're not mixing a trap record. You know what I mean? So just this kind of stuff I don't pay attention to too much. I trust my ears a lot more. I'm mixing on the Dutch and Dutch 8Cs. I have them calibrated to my room. I've tuned out my room. I've spent years on this room. And I've listened to and mixed and mastered a bunch of records in here and produced, recorded, all sorts of stuff. So I'm pretty confident with that. Okay. If you guys have, again, any questions, drop them in the chat. Even if you're like, no, I disagree with you. That's cool. Let's have a conversation. All right. So let's hit this again. Let's hear it at the loudest part. Let's check out the LUFs and let's compare it to the reference and where we came from.
Innocent is the way we've seen, believe, and indifference is of you. And some see it as if it has nothing to do with me and you. I'm now seeing the world. Innocent is the way we're.
All right. So, wow, we're hitting up at like -6 perfectly, right? Like as loud as I want this record to be honest with you. I don't want to go any louder than that. You can see some out of phase stuff because things are being pushed up. Love that. It's giving a lot more dimension. If I look at the reference right now and I look at the correlation meter, it's very, very mono. It's right up the middle. Right, so that's something to look out for. If you just see like a square, right, like this, and it's solid, that means you're probably doing a little too much. You should probably let up on your dynamics a little bit. You might be squashing it too much, right? So yeah, so that's looking great to me. I think it looks great. It sounds great. There's one thing in the vocal I think is kind of resonating. There's that, like, when he hits that innocent, whatever that note is right there, it just fucking kind of screams a little too much. So what I do for that is, just to treat it, I would do maybe a dynamic EQ, right? Something simple. Fab filter, find the frequency in here, and it's probably in this mid-range area somewhere, right? So I hear things like around here, like 500 to 700 kind of area. But let's check it. There you go. So you can see the note also, but it's like 720 or so. And right here, I'll just go boop and turn this to dynamic, make dynamic. And I'm going to do natural phase on this dynamic, just so that it's a little bit more musical and doesn't phase shift as much, right? Because dynamic EQing can cause phase shifting, you know, distortion, aliasing, etc. So just be careful with dynamic EQing. And then I'm going to take the gain back up, and I'm going to just duck it if it goes a little too much, right? So that's all I'm doing here. You can tighten the Q pretty good, maybe around there. I don't know. I'm going to check it out.
Is the way we'll see, believe. Innocent is the way. Innocent is the way we'll see, believe.
All right, and then is the way, like that kind of peaks out just a little bit. So I'll take care of that as well. It's just right here. It's just neighboring it.
Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and indifferences. Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and indifferences of you.
Okay, much smoother, and I'm gonna do the same thing to the double, right? Because this is the double right here under it. I'm just gonna option drag this down to the double, okay? And this way I don't have that build up where it's just like, whoa, that one note kind of, whoa, whoa, you know, I don't really like that. It doesn't sound as smooth, kind of sounds wonky.
Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and indifference.
Sounding much smoother, and remember, you're also going to get those things building up in your reverb returns. So it's not a bad idea to do a little bit of tucking on those offending frequencies on the vocal reverb return, right? So this is going to the vocal verb, and this vocal verb is, let me see, where is it? It's going to be in this vocal verb. This guy here, okay? So this vocal verb, it's sort of firing off in there as well. I can just hear it. I can hear woo, right? So let's brighten it up a little bit on the sides again. And this part right here, this like crossover area, this is kind of where it's booming more. So let's just kind of take this down and let's make this stereo, because right now it's in the mid side, so it's just on the middle. Let's just make this stereo so it takes care of that on both left, right, the whole thing.
Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and indifference is all you. And some see the world as if innocent is the way we'll see.
Right, and I'm hearing it in the fattening as well, this area here. So I'm just going to go in here and go boop, pop on the Pro Q3, and let's duck it there.
Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and indifference is all you. And some see the world as if it had.
So on this, I can just do like a wide kind of dip here. I think that's going to sound really musical. I'm going to put this on natural phase, which pretty much mimics the curves and the phase shifting of an analog EQ. Okay, just kind of keeps it a little bit more musical to my ears for this purpose. All right, that's sounding good to me. And now let's go to the master bus and let's tweak some things. So this is where we get into the nitty gritty of sort of gluing it all together a little bit more and making sure we have the textures and the timbres and the curves and everything that we want out of this, right? So on the master here, I'm gonna go no insert on any of this. I don't want any of that on. And boop, 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 boop. And then what do we have? We have the variable mu, right? So we're pushing this quite a bit on the input, which is going to give us that tube drive, push things forward in the mix. Kind of want to balance this back a little bit.
Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and indifference is all.
Right, just a touch more mellow. And also let's get this needle to just budge. I want a little bit of compression out of this, maybe a dB.
Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and indifference is all you. And some see the world as if it has nothing to.
That feels better to me. It feels a little bit more dynamic, but also the compression kicking on just a touch feels a little bit more glued and controlled, right? Which is great. So I'm getting the drive from the tubes and the tubes, right? Because this is actually modeling that tube circuitry of driving a variable mu compressor, but really like it does actually feel like that, right? Also, the recovery, I think the fast is not doing what I want on this kind of record. And the reason being is because of the tempo. Like it's like 89 BPM. It feels like, it feels like gluey. So I want to kind of back off and maybe slower the release so that we get more of like a gooey sound and less of like a, you know, when you have the really fast release on your limiter or compressor on your stereo bus, what you're really going to get is louder, right? Because it's grabbing and letting go really fast. So you're letting things through faster. If I grab it and hold it longer, it's going to be a more smooth compression. It's like turning it down and riding a wave, right? And obviously different compressors have different knees as well. So some have hard knees where it's the compression triggers like right when it goes across the threshold. Some compressors trigger on a really nice slope where it's a little bit more gluey. For something that you want to be more smooth sounding, you want to do a slower release and you want a more soft knee compression, right? So that's very important to getting the tone you want. It's not always about just being louder, you know, being more aggressive. This is not really an aggressive record. So making your compressor's aggressive on your master bus or your limiter aggressive on your master bus is not the answer. Not for this kind of style. Not to me and not to my ears. So I'm going to recover a little bit slower and just hear what it does. It really just kind of like should just ride the wave a little softer, and things aren't going, you know, like popping is hard.
Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and indifference is all you. And some see the world as if it has nothing to do.
Just feels better. So let me A-B the release, going really fast and then slowing it down.
Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and indifference is all you. And some see the world as if it has nothing to do.
Right? So it just kind of congeals it more and holds it. And it's not going like all the high end popping. Now, to your ears, if they're not super trained, you might hear that as like, no, the faster release sounds more open. It sounds way bigger and louder, right? But that's not necessarily what we want out of a record all the time, right? I don't want the record always to be like loud and bright. So this is really nice for smooth, you know, and now you can drive the input harder and get more of that tube distortion and harmonics without it kind of getting too bright and brittle, if that makes sense. And we can balance the input and output. So let's try pushing the input now.
Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and indifference is all you. And some see the world as if it has nothing to do.
All right, that feels way better to me. I don't know, like I trust my ears. I just kind of like wait for them to get hugged and be like, yeah, that's right. That feels good. And now I kind of want to get some of this down. Like I have this like 4.32. I think this is the wrong move. That's kind of a little too harsh for me.
Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and indifference is all you. And some see the world as if it has nothing.
Right, and I love that warmth and that right down here at like 95, 100. So I'm just gonna like maybe touch that with like 0.2 of a dB and make it real wide, right? Just kind of make this like the slope should be like fat, and then it should like roll down, and then the mid should kind of like peak up a little bit, and like the high end real soft and silky, you know?
Innocent is the way.
I love those drums just being like thick and punchy and fat, and you hearing the toms like kind of you know, like in the left and right. I feel like that's a really cool look. Sounds really great. And then I have this on mid side, right? So this is the middle of the imaging on the master bus. And then this is the sides, right? I'm not doing very much at all. 0.4 of a dB, 0.3 of a dB, 0.2 of a dB, etc. Right? So in the middle, I want to fatten up the vocal a little bit, maybe around the 800 to 1200. All right, so you have to be really, really careful when you start throwing limiters and compressors on your master bus, because you'll start to hear that pumping and the things coming in and out, right? So all of a sudden the music gets really loud, and then the vocal comes in and like, and then it like ducks everything, and it starts to feel really unnatural. So that's why I'm not just like hitting this harder, because it sounds great and it's enticing to pull that threshold down and really limit and go like, oh, that sounds good, man. Because louder we perceive as better psychoacoustically, but you have to pay attention to the details of pumping, the details of now the vocal comes in that mid-range, and then everything kind of gets quieter and ducking, right? So I'll overemphasize this so you can really hear what I'm talking about as far as like things trading off. Music gets really fucking loud, and then like vocal comes in, and like the music starts to duck, and it goes, you know, it gets these artifacts going on, and it's enticing to do that. Everybody does that, and then they fuck their whole thing up because they're not paying attention to gain staging and they're slamming shit, right? So I'm doing little bites all the way through. Compressor. There's a limiter with some dynamic EQing curve selection on this guy. So I'm kind of like taking down the low end, taking down this low mid sort of stuff, you know, anything that's kind of really peaky to me. The high end, you know, shelving it down a little bit, going pretty slow on the release, not super slow, but you know, 152 milliseconds isn't slow, but it depends on the BPM and stuff. So I'm trying to find that groove, right? But check this out. If I take this threshold down, I really push it, you start to hear the artifacts when the vocal comes in. Right, you get this pumping effect that it just does not sound musical. So I liked it right around 3.7 or so, right? So I am giving it some limiting with this, but it's not giving me any of that weird artifact that's happening with that. Oxford Inflator is a magical plugin, and it's very basic, and I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. It just sounds good. It adds a little bit more perceived loudness. It's giving me harmonics pretty much. That's all I really hear out of this. If I bypass this in and out, you'll hear it kind of like jump forward a little bit and then jump back a little bit. And it's very, very small. Right, keeping this very warm, I took the effect down. If I bring this effect up, you're going to get more high mids, more push forward. Okay, so just to A-B this for you as I push it forward. In the sound is And I really pay attention to the overheads on the drums, the really high, bright stuff, and also what happens to the vocal. Does the vocal like go up and get louder and up front more? We don't really want that. I like how things are from like, you know, front to back and all this other stuff, right? Like it's very important to me that I keep the image of my mix. I don't want to fuck with that. I don't want it to all of a sudden be like, whoa, you did the mastering and all of a sudden the vocals like on top and the drums got really loud. Right? Because that happens a lot when people master because they don't understand what the processors are actually doing. Okay, Goldfoss Master, another pretty magical and powerful plugin. This is just going to really give me more separation from my instruments. If it's doing more than that, I need to back off.
Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and indifference is of you. And some see the world as if it has nothing to do.
So I think that's great. It's just giving me a little bit more separation. It does brighten up the mix because of the separation. So there are things that I really have to like pay attention to. And again, when I talk about mastering and I talk about using my master bus, I think of all these plugins working together. Okay. I don't think of this as like, I go from this to this, to this, to this, to this, to this, to this, because if I mess with this, it's going to affect everything else and how it's hitting and the gain staging of every other plugin in the chain. So I'm going through and I might go back and I might go like this, right? Like I might go to this, tweak this, and then come back over to the Avalon and tweak that. You know, it's a modular process of like, you know, you change one, you change all, right? So Oxford, and I'm just taking you through these in a row because I want you to see and hear what they're doing in the chain. All right. And they're doing very subtle things. Soothe 2. I love this preset and I start with this preset and then I tweak. So it's either, I go to the mastering here. Sometimes it's the mastering advance. Yeah. So I either go, this happens a lot, right? Like I'll either go low mid cleanup 1 or low mid cleanup 2 with the DS. And I don't know why, I just love it. I've tried all these presets on everything. I've gone to all these mastering. I've done all this stuff, right? But I think that these two are my favorites and the most used by far out of any of these. And the reason being is because it kind of gets this low bottom stuff and then it gets this harsh area that I don't really like too much in that 4K, and sometimes I'll bring it up so I can get more of the 2K. Now the crossover's right here, right? So you can move this stuff over, yellow and orange here, all right? See that? So I can bring it down so I can get more of that 2K area if I need to. And when you push this up, it's going to say, listen to more of that area and take down more of it. If you push this down, it's going to say leave that area alone, right? So I might want to hit this 2K area, and it's about like 2200, 22 to 2500 that I really don't like. It's just my ears. And I also feel like it just gets harsh, especially if you jack up the volume. You play a show or you play this live, you play it at a concert venue or an open kind of area, a restaurant. People are going to be annoyed by that frequency. It's going to get into their talking and what they're doing. And they're like, God, turn the music down. And they don't know why. And a lot of the times it's because you guys mix and master your own shit and you don't know any of this stuff and you're not paying attention to this. You're just like, it sounds better. It's louder, right? And that's not always the case. Just pay attention to those things. Things sound a lot better louder when they're rounder. And there's not as much harsh high end and mid range. Okay. So just pay attention to that area.
Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and indifference is of you. And some see the world as if it has nothing to do.
So I'll usually mess with this until like I'll push it all the way and I'll listen like what is it affecting really? Like what is it taking out like crazy? And then I'll back off until everything kind of opens up again, right? And then bypass it in and out and let it like what is it doing? Is it doing what I want it to do? Another thing that Soothe is going to do no matter what when you use it on the master bus, and you can avoid this a little bit by using this link in the mode left and right and the mid side and all that. But it will take your stereo and it'll bring it in a little bit, okay? And that's good. I like that about this plugin. It sort of takes the stereo and instead of it being completely exaggerated, where it's not going to translate very well to all listening systems, it brings it in so it's like a little bit tighter and a little bit more stereo and friendly for all devices. So let me just A/B this for you.
Is the way we'll see, believe, and differences of you. And some see the world as if it has nothing to do.
See how it kind of tightens everything up and takes care of some of those peaks and just kind of smooths out the record and makes it more. It actually kind of glues the record, which is interesting, and I think something that's really special about the algorithm for this Soothe 2. The oven, I may or may not use this. Sometimes this kind of gets a little too crazy, but in this instance, I'm paralleling it, okay? And this is the trick with this plugin. A lot of people are like, yo, you're using the oven on the master bus? That's crazy, bro. But this plugin is very, very subtle if you use it in parallel and you use it very subtly and you know what you're doing with it, right? Like you have to hear what it's doing. And it's all distortion. That's 100% what this thing does. It's all just different algorithms of different types of distortion. So you have the temp, the cook, the burners, the sizzle, and the flow. The flow is really like your gain staging on your output, right? Giving yourself headroom, less or more headroom, to where if you bring this down, it's going to kind of like give you more headroom on the output, right? So you don't clip. If you bring this up, you're going to be clipping it a little bit harder and hitting the output harder, which is going to make it more distorted sounding. You also can use this headroom knob as well. So less or more. If you go less headroom here, you're going to distort quicker. So I'll just show you what that does.
Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and differences of you. And some see the world as if it has nothing to do.
Now, what this does for me, you know, when you turn it to less headroom, you're like, wow, that sounds like shit. It's just going, it's just distorting. But when you put distortion and, you know, harmonics, saturation on your master bus, you're kind of like saturating everything together, which saturates your reverbs and the depth and all that. So if you're bringing harmonics into your reverb returns and stuff, you hear those reverbs deeper. Right? So things become wider, things become deeper. Mainly wider is what I usually hear when I throw saturation kind of plugins on the master bus. And I love that. I love the warmth because it's kind of like what tape does. Right? So if you have a tape machine on your master bus, or you're pushing your record through tape machine, 30 IPS, you know, GP9 tape, like mastering style tape, that's what you get out of it. You get that kind of like distortion, that warm hug that makes things feel more three-dimensional. That's the best way I can describe it from my experience, right? So low burner, mid burner, top burner. If I put this in 100%, you'll hear it a lot more, and then I'll tweak this and show you.
Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and differences of you. And some see the world as if it has nothing to do with me and you.
right, you get it? You get what I'm doing there? It's just giving it a little hug. It's giving it some more depth and width and harmonics, which is great for this style of record. It's not good for every record. Clip, gold clip. I'm not clipping on this at all. What I'm using is the gold setting and the alchemy. I'm not going to explain all this. I've done a plugin of the week on this one. You should definitely check it out if you're interested. This is a very professional plugin. It's very, very... a lot of people I don't even think can hear it, to be honest with you. And they're like, why would I pay that much money for something I can't even hear? You know what I mean? But I can hear it, and it kind of brings up the low level, the bass, and glues things and gives you a little bit more perceived loudness. It does a lot of things, actually, but this is a really magical plugin. I have it in parallel right now. So I have it at, almost 50-50 wet and dry, but I'll make this 100% wet. And I'll push this gold a little bit, and I'll take the alchemy in and out here for you. Yeah, so the alchemy is basically a top shelf. So the more I turn this up, the more it's going to lower the high end from 1K up. It's going to lower that down so that it's not affected as much by the clipping. So instead of like the high end, getting distorted and going... I can take that down and just have like the lows and the mids being affected by the clipping or the gold. So it's a really pretty magical thing here. Keeps your record really warm and fat. And for this record itself, amazing. I love that.
Innocent is the way we'll see, believe and differences of you. And some see the world as if it has nothing to do.
Now, if you wanted to use the clipper on this, you could set the ceiling down a little bit and clip at that ceiling. Like, so say you wanted to clip at like -2.5, or you can push the gain into it and clip at 0. So I'll show you the two ways you can do it.
Innocent is the way we'll see, believe and differences of you. And some see the world as if it has.
Now, why would I do that? I would do that because I want to take off the peaks of the snare drum, kick drum, whatever else transient is like hitting the top of the top, and take that peak and just clip it so that I can then hit it with the God particle on the limiter and bring this limiter up, because then I have more headroom to do so, right? Because the first thing that's going to hit the limiter, that's going to trigger the limiter, is going to be, first of all, transients, right? Snare drums, drum hits, things like that. Second of all, really like that low level information that builds up. A lot of energy there. So that's why you would use the clipping on the gold clip. And maybe just even for the tone sometimes. You're like, oh, I really like the sound of that. That sounds sick. And then there's different gold settings here. You have like modern, you have classic. And this has a lot to do with how the curves work. I won't get into all the details of that because it gets pretty gnarly as far as the science and shit, but roll over it. Type of non-linear gain used for gold processing. So the gold processing is non-linear gain, which is, I think there's like a compressor in this as well. I can kind of hear it compressing as you turn that up. It's almost like a limiter compressor, non-linear gain. How else are you going to get non-linear gain, right? So it's kind of modeling the Lavery Gold converters, right? And the clipping in the Lavery Gold. And what the Lavery Gold does, it does a lot of different things. You can read up on it if you want. So I might just clip just a touch on the peaks here. And then you can turn this on as well, which is a low pass filter and applied to the clipper, recommended for a cleaner clipping effect. This is basically saying, hey, don't clip anything. Don't let anything trigger the clipper circuitry that's down here in the sub frequencies, right? So that can clean it up. But I find a lot of times if I leave that off, I get like a warmer, fuller sound. So it just depends on what you want. Do you want cleaner, more pop tones, or do you want like this warm, fuller kind of clipping and distortion, right, and harmonics through that. And again, alchemy, you can see, reshapes the ascent and descent of peak signals. Mid and high frequencies are reduced as the signal approaches the clip point. So as it approaches the clip point, you go, okay, everything's going up to that clip point and it's going to get clipped, right? But then you're like, no, but let's shelf down the 1K and above, 2K and above, whatever it is. I don't know what the roll-off is there, but again, you can watch the plugin of the week I did on this plugin. I love this plugin. I think Ryan is making some amazing stuff. I think he's coming out with a new plugin, and I'm really excited to get into that. That's going to be really, really dope. But yeah, look out for the Schwab Digital, man. Like, shit's amazing. It's like some of the best stuff ever. All right, I got to say what's up to some people. How you doing? Future Sound Beat in the house. When we doing the mix, man? Quit playing, bro. Quit playing with me. Matthew, what's up? Of course, dude. I'm trying to give you guys as much game as possible on this record. And Ryan, what's up, dude? Ryan is in the house. This is his record with his band. So you guys can follow Ryan and stay in tune and in touch with him about when this is dropping and everything. Yeah, panel. Yeah, the diffuser. I actually, my buddy hand built that one. That diffuser. It diffuses from like 350 or so hertz all the way up to about 5K. So that's what it's breaking apart behind me. So as the speakers and everything hits that wall, it goes, and really the diffuser in the back behind you is, it needs to be far enough, by the way. Don't ever like get a diffuser or purchase, because diffusers are really expensive. Don't ever buy diffusers until you control your low end in your room, which is going to be mainly bass trapping, right? And then you want to probably get some like mid-range panels to make sure you don't have any peaks in, your 500 area, your mid-range kind of stuff. The high stuff is a little bit easier to treat, but if you want like a really nice, I like a nice neutral room where it still feels lively and it's not completely dead. I know some engineers love completely dead rooms. I fucking hate it. It weighs on my ears and it makes them really tired a lot quicker, so I can't mix and produce as long. And that's the name of the game, mix and produce longer, right? That's why I got this chair. This chair is like ugly as fuck, right? Like when you guys see it on stream, you're like, what is he doing? Like sitting in a lazy boy? But this chair was like a $3,800 chair. Now I got it used. I got it off Craigslist from this old dude that was like, I don't use that anymore. I got a lazy boy. I'm not working anymore. You know what I mean? So I got a hell of a deal on this. But it's by Relax the Back, and it's fucking insane. Like it's like memory foam. I can sit in this thing for hours and hours and hours and not have any like back issues or anything. They even have like people come out to set up this chair because there's so many different things that you can do, lumbar support and changing the height and the back and the forth and whatever, So it's very important to me. I invest most of my money into like the chair, the acoustics of the room, the speakers, the things that I use the most, and the things that I count on the most and rely on the most for my job. And that's why I'm constantly working with new plugins and new plugin companies, because I want to be ahead. I want to be able to use the best shit on my client's stuff. This plugin is not cheap. It's like $300, $400, right? For this plugin, this one plugin. Okay. And a lot of people can't afford that. And I understand that. My money goes into this stuff so that I can provide that for my clients. So I can use the latest stuff on my client's stuff and they get the benefit of that. Right. So that's the name of the game. And being comfortable and being able to just use your ears and get the vibe right. It's like priceless to me. It's what I love doing. All right, so let's dial this in just a little bit more. I'm barely touching this, but I'll bypass this in and out so you can really hear what it does. Because it is pretty cool what it does. It kind of like gives this lift to the low end and makes things warmer. It's like, listen to the bass and the kick drum mainly. Yo, Brian, what's up, man? It's good to see you, bro. I'm excited to drop some records with you, man. Really hyped.
Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and indifferences of you. And some see the world as if it has nothing to do with me and you.
guys see what that does? It's like so subtle. And that's what I love about this plugin is that you're like, oh, it sounds like louder and more in your face and more like a record. And you turn it off and it kind of like falls back just a little bit. And you're like, wow, it's like a 3 to 5% improvement on the master with that plugin. And that's kind of what happens with your investments in music. You're like, man, I'm investing all this money into music. But once you get to a certain level where you're like getting to the highest level, you spend so much money to get like a 10% better thing or a 5% or a 3% improvement. Like, for example, like the monitors I have, the Dutch and Dutch 8Cs, these cost me like $17,000, $18,000 after taxes and everything. And a lot of people be like, that's crazy. Why don't you just have like normal monitors? You know, can't you get that with like, can't you get there with other monitors? I'm like, yeah, but like these are going to give me an extra 10, 15% depth, hearing sibilance, whatever else, help me work just a little bit faster and also enjoy my work a little bit more, right? And I can hear all the way down to 20 hertz and all the way up to 20K really nicely with these monitors, you know, and that's really hard to do with, just prosumer gear. And those are the investments I make. And by the way, you guys, like, I'm not like sitting here like I'm rich, you know what I mean? These monitors, I got a loan from QuickBooks through my business and bought these and paid for them over like a year, right? And that payment was crazy. It was crazy. It was like $2,000 a month, you know what I mean? So I bust my ass for this shit. So I don't ever want to hear anyone being like, yo, but you got the money and I don't, I'm poor. And how do you afford that? Like, you think that like I just could afford this? Like I've been doing this for over 2 decades. Like it takes time, you know? Takes time. People don't want to take the time. How do you recommend the trackball? Yeah, I love the trackball. I mean, you know, if you're a true engineer, let's be real, you use a trackball. If you're a wannabe or you're some like beat maker kid, you don't use a trackball. You don't even know how to use this thing. But yeah, man, I'm in the deep end, bro. Like you sit on an SSL in a studio, they're gonna have a trackball. So a lot of those guys that don't know how to even use a trackball, they're gonna fucking bring their little mouse and shit. But you know, it's not for everyone. Whatever. I'm just like geeked out. You feel me? Yeah. You know, the plugins, man, Ryan, you don't even need to worry about that. Just put your money into me mixing and mastering your shit, and put your money into professionals. If you want to have fun and make better records as a producer and a recording engineer and all that, you know, and as an artist, I would say invest in like sounds and stuff, right? Synths, microphones, things like that. But like investing in these kind of plugins, bro, you better be fucking getting paid to mix and master. You better be getting paid to master records if you're buying this kind of stuff, right? So I'm just going to take this back a little bit, and I'm going to turn this on and off so you can hear what that's doing.
Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and get my glimpses of you. And some see the world as if it has nothing to do with me and you. I'm now seeing a world. Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and get my glimpses.
So that's sounding really nice to me. I feel like overall it's getting a little bright. So let's take this down. This is a shelf right at the top. It's like really high up. I forget what it is. It's like 20K or like something crazy like that, 15K. This is a 5K shelf here. So let's just kind of make sure that we're not boosting too much of that. And then this is 2K, and we want to be careful with that area. I think we can bring this back down a little bit. This is 500. I'm tucking that a little bit. I'll bring that up a little bit. And then this is 100, 150, somewhere around there. And then this is sub, right? So I'm going to bring this down as well.
Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and get my glimpses of you.
right, taking the gain back down on this, on the makeup, I have a compressor here. It's 2.5 to 1. This here is interesting. This is a clockwise rotation, raises the threshold, and counterclockwise lowers the threshold at the frequency set by the low frequency control directly below. Okay, so meaning if I turn this way, we're going to compress more of and not let through as much of these frequencies down here on the sidechain, right? If I bring this up, let through more of that frequency. So let's try and just compress it a little bit.
Innocent is the way it would seem. Believe I can get my glimpses of.
All right, and if you want to hear that sidechain, you hit this sidechain listen in, and we can hear exactly what this is doing to these frequencies. So let's go to a frequency that we know is a big issue in this record, or something we're keeping our ear on, which might be like that 500 area. And then listen to what it does as I go counterclockwise and clockwise on this, and we're listening to the sidechain listen on this.
Innocent is the way it would seem.
Now remember, we're listening to the sidechain right now. So that's what the sidechain is listening for, okay? So if I take that out, like for example, I want to get rid of some of that triggering the compressor. We want to raise the threshold, or we can lower the threshold at the frequency, right? So on this case, let's like really exaggerate it. Let's turn that off.
Innocent is the way it would seem. Believe I can get.
Like hear how the record really thinned out, and you're like, oh, that kind of sucks, because now it doesn't feel as warm and as full, and you know, I just don't like it. So maybe you want to bring this back this way.
Innocent is the way it would seem. Believe I can get.
Right? And then same thing up here. If you have this guy and you go to like that 2K area that's kind of pissing us off, or even that 700 area where he kind of fires off in his vocal, you can do the same thing. You can, you know, take that up or down, right? So maybe we want to thin that out a little bit.
Innocent is the way it would seem. Believe I can get my glimpses of you.
Now remember, when we take it down counterclockwise this way, we're decreasing the threshold, which means we're triggering the compressor harder off that sidechain frequency. Okay, so watch the needle as I go counterclockwise on 700, and listen to his vocal. His vocal gets compressed.
Innocent is the way it would seem. Believe I can get my glimpses of you. And some see the world as if it has.
So a nice way to just kind of like, when he hits those frequencies, it kind of like triggers the compressor a little bit more on those frequencies, which will smooth it out a little bit, right? And that's what we're using this for. And I don't really hear any problems down here, to be honest with you, what I'm doing over here. You might want to do that on like the toms or something, like the 200 to 400 area, but you know, I don't hear any problems with that. So I'm really just like focus on just like ducking his vocal, that frequency when it hits too much in the vocal, just compress down a little bit harder. And then this is the makeup gain. This is the compressor. Here's the threshold. So what I want to try and do is just get this blue light to barely kind of light up a little bit.
Innocent is the way it would seem. Believe I can get my glimpses of you. And some see the world as if it has nothing to do with me and you.
so it does pretty magical stuff right here with this plugin. I love it. Sounds so good. Now, God Particle, last thing we got to do. See, we're clipping on the input, which is not really that big of a deal. 24-bit plugins, right? Like, we're clipping the input, we're not clipping the output. The output's set at negative 0.2 dB. And our limiter is hitting pretty hard. But let's shape a little bit of the EQ and the input to give ourselves some good gain stage going into this last God Particle here.
Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and indifference is all you. And some see the world as if it has nothing to do with me and you. Innocent is the way we'll see, believe, and indifference is all you. And some see the world as if it has nothing to do on the sea. Time and space will stand still when you come back to pick up me.
Sounding really good. I think on the last thing I would want to do on this is try this Soothe on the vocal and make sure that we're not, we're kind of smoothing it out up on the top here. Because it's a very round vocal, I want to make sure that it stays that way.
On the sea, time and space will stand still when you come back to pick up me. People tend to digress in search of meaning inside the trees, forgetting we were created by the Creator to be free.
All right, we're getting there, huh? Like really getting there. So just to like A-B these two, because I think it's important to understand where we're at and where we're going, right? I just want to kind of play you guys the A-B here, right? So here's the beginning of the reference, and we'll pop in and out, A-B. Sounded pretty good, huh? And it's like, yeah, the harmonics and everything, just like it's feeling really warm and nice and gooey. So reference here, let's just kind of pop in and out. I always want to make sure also like I'm dialing the actual balance, you know, really, really nicely where nothing's distracting. And that shaker was kind of distracting me.
Time and space will stand still when you come back to pick up me. Time and space will stand still when you come back to pick up me. People tend to digress
All right, just bass was getting like a little bit too tony and like picky and distorted kind of sounding, so I just kind of take that back a little bit. Other thing that I'm hearing is the vocal itself is really, really open and really beautiful, but I want it to sound more in the record, right? So hopefully that makes sense. So what I want to do here is I just want to hit it with a very light compression with a fast compressor, right? So I have on the vocal mix, I have the Pro Q3, I have the SSL and stuff, but I think what I really want to hear on this is just a very like gooey, like catch it, you know, and like glue it better. So I'm just going to go to my, you know, the guy I love. No, I'm going to try the Pulsar one, actually. This Pulsar, or is it 82 Echo Rec Mu? Yeah, maybe the Mu is the one I want to do here. And this is just like a variable Mu compressor, a lot like the Manly. I think it's actually modeled after the Manly. And I just want to barely touch this. I don't want to do much with it. And I also want to use these sidechain filters, and I want to filter all the way up to like 200, right? As high as it'll go. So 200 is not triggering the compressor, right? And then let's do this. Let's go attack really fast. Let's go threshold. We'll start at max, and then we'll bring it down to where we're just kind of touching it on any peaks where he goes, ah, ah, ah. You know, when he does that, like we want it to kind of tickle a little bit, right? And then we have the output. We have the release. The release, let's go in the middle for now, right? Everything else is good. Let's start to mess with the threshold and the vocal here.
Time and space will stand still when you come back. Time and space will stand still.
All right, so you see the input is going to predict how hard it's hitting the compressor. So we saw the meter moving, right? But right now, what I want to do is I want to listen to, I don't want to listen to, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm metering gain reduction. Pretty sure that's what it does. 2 gain reduction meters. Yes, so we're good. So what I'm trying to do is make sure that the input is not pushed to the point where it's triggering the compressor. So 0, and then we'll use the threshold on the compressor to tuck, all right? So A-B it and try to get it matched to where it already is with the volume.
Time and space will stand still when you come back to pick up me. Inside the trees, time and space will stand still when you come back to pick up me. People tend to digress in search of meaning inside the trees. Time and space will stand still when you come back to pick up me. People tend to digress in search of meaning.
See how it goes from like feeling like it feels open without it, but it also kind of feels detached from the record. You know what I mean? So this kind of gives me that, like, you know, put it back in the record. You know, keep your vocal in the record. Don't pop out front like that. Just kind of keep it in the record instead of on top of the record. And now the vocal feels more, it doesn't feel controlled. Like you're not hearing the compressor. It's just like the compressor is like gluing it in. And I love that. I love not hearing something, but it doing its job. So thank you, Pulsar, Mu. Killing it. And by the way, I think they have like their plugins on sale right now. So definitely at least give them a demo, because these are some of the best plugins. Like they're really, really good. And they charge a lot for these. I think this is like $150 usually. But it's worth it if you're doing professional work like this. I mean, let's just bypass this in and out and listen for the vocal.
Time and space will stand still
Like, it's just so good. It's exactly what you want it to do. Butter it out, right? So it's not going, hey, hey, hey. Now it's like, it's not like honking. It's not resonating. It's just kind of like, yeah, this is there. So that's how I'm feeling. Man, sometimes when you're like talking and thinking about like what you're going to do next, it like kind of fucks with your brain. I feel a little crazy right now. But you guys, like I'm really at the point where I'm like, okay, I need to make a bounce and I need to compare this. But right now I'm going to go to the very end and I'm going to just make any other tweaks I need to make. But that's really like, it feels right to me. It's starting to like I feel like, what else would you do to this and why would you do it, right? Why the fuck would I use any more plugins or anything? Like, I feel like this is sounding and feeling right. Okay, so this part, I had that idea, and that's maybe like my intuition is telling me take that idea back, is the drum overheads and pushing those up. I think that was a bad look, okay? And I think I'm just now going, yeah, not good. I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to bring this back down, right? Maybe it has a little bit of a boost, but not that kind of boost, because I feel like the cymbals kind of come out like, whoa, what the fuck? And another thing is like these drum rooms, I hear this compressor too much. So I think I'm going to change this compressor. I'll show you what I mean. So soloing the drum rooms here. That's what it is. Okay, so the frequency in here that I don't like, that I don't need to bring this up. And also I don't like the like 500 area-ish in here. And I think this filter is not right. I need to use a shelf instead. Sometimes a shelf is way better than a filter, just at turning the frequencies down, right? So I feel like I need to come around here and just turn them way down. Right? And wrong compressor. It's too aggressive. It's not doing what I want it to do. I think even just an R comp that has no color to it, you know what I mean? Just give me that. Give me like a 4-to-1 here. Give me a little compression, and so we can get that popping a little bit harder. And this could be like 70 or so, and releasing somewhere around here. We'll do opto. We'll go down here. Feels way better, right? Like it's not as papery and harsh right there. And I feel like that's a part that really was kind of bugging me, is that kind of like the first initial coming into that spot here. All right, now it feels way more just like gooey and silky, and that's what I want. So let's make a bounce real quick. And let's compare it to an A-B it. against the reference. All right, so make sure, usually when I'm going to do a bounce, I make sure that I have everything ready with like any oversampling and things that I want to do. So gold clip, if you go into the wheel here, you have oversampling offline, extra pristine. That's what I'm going to do. Linear phase is I think this is pretty good for what we're doing here. So we'll leave that setting. So that's offline when we bounce. And then what else we got here? Soothe 2. Offline, we want to do 4 times ultra. Great. And I always find that just sounds better, by the way. It's not like I don't have a reasoning behind it. I'm not like, oh, because this does this. Like, just sounds better most of the time when I make that decision to bounce like that. All right, and then everything else looks good. Make sure our output has some room. So I have it at -0.3, and this is really to avoid aliasing and artifacts when I convert it. When it gets converted, it's just going to get converted no matter what, because when it gets uploaded to DistroKid or CD Baby or whatever else, it's going to be streaming at a terrible rate most of the time, right? Like 256 kilobits per second or something. So it turns into an OGG file, turns into an MP3 file on some sources, and AC3 file on Apple Music. So we have to make sure that we give ourselves some headroom here. And that's just so that, when it converts, that extra 0.3 dB of headroom is room for it to not clip, basically, when it gets converted down and you're truncating the word. Okay, and if you want to be extra careful, you can take it down to -0.1 or -1 or -0.5, I think -0.3 is usually fine. And you can test this by literally bouncing it and then converting it down to OGG or MP3 and hearing, like, listen, is there any artifacts? Is there any any weird distortion that happens, etc. And if there is, then you need to give yourself more headroom and stop hitting your shit so hard, basically. Don't hit your shit hard, bro. All right, so let's make a bounce here. I find offline bounce now with Pro Tools, the latest version, it works great. A lot of, back in the past, I would have like Pro Tools 11, Pro Tools 12, where I would make a bounce internally into Pro Tools. Because the offline bounce wasn't what it is now. But now it's really good. I think it sounds really great. And I've A/B'd this and tested it and done null tests where I bounce through Pro Tools and I bounce offline and no difference. So just so you guys know when you hear that kind of shit. Master V1, right? And let's do add MP3. No, we don't need to do that. I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to import after bounce, and let's make sure it's going to the right spot. Right now, it looks like it's going to some other folder from another mix, another band. All right, and bounce. And you can tell that the offline bounce has gotten a lot better because as I'm bouncing, it's at 0.8 times. It's not even going in real time on the bounce, which means it's doing math. And hopefully it's doing the math properly, right, with all the oversampling and converting. But yeah, I wouldn't usually do this part of it on a live stream. It's a little bit reckless because you have other stuff going on your computer and stuff, and I just don't trust that. But, All right, what do you got? How about exterior sidechain option in God Particle? Did you even use it? Exterior sidechain option, I don't have a reason to use that on the God Particle. If you're talking about using it so that I can filter out certain frequencies or whatever, sure, but I'm doing that with like so many other processes, right? Like I just showed everything I did here with like the Avalon, the sidechain on the compressor there, what I'm feeding everything, it's all about gain staging, and it's about what you're feeding, everything feeding the next thing sort of thing, right? I don't really know how to explain that really well. I'm just not good at teaching that part of it because it is a feel. So like when people ask me like, oh, why don't you do this? I'm like, well, because I've accomplished that with like 100 other moves, with my mix buses and my drum mix bus and my vocal mix bus and the way I'm mixing into my master bus and all the multiple plugins I have going on there. So I didn't feel the need to do that. I think the gain is really good. The LUFs are hitting around -6 for this style of music. Feels really great to me. So, yeah, that's why. And it still feels open. You know, like I don't feel a need to use a sidechain option on the God particle. Didn't even consider it. Don't need it. If I needed it, I'd be like, oh man, I should use that, you know? Yo, you're so welcome. If you guys want to support the channel, you get anything out of these live streams, you could drop a super chat right here. You can, you know, buy me a coffee. You can share the show. You can drop comments. You can like the post. I'll leave links in the description if you guys want to work one-on-one with me. All sorts of shit, you know? I think that's like everything to me is like, you know, you guys come through, you watch, you may learn a thing or two here. Or you may, you know, just want to come through and like see what I'm doing. And then it's always kind of a bummer. It's like people will go and like take the shit from you and they're like, yeah, it should be free. You know, a mixing engineer that's been doing this for 20 plus years should just stream all their shit and tell you everything they're doing and all the plugins and show them and teach me everything that they know, you know, like it's kind of weird, right? So you guys play your part, share the show love, you know, and don't expect from people, you know, don't expect people to share all their knowledge and just stream stuff and all that. So I really appreciate even you saying thank you. It's good to see you, Seth. Okay, what are you saying? Nah, it's completely changes the things going on of this plugin. I think Jason Joshua told about this. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, Kurox. If you're talking about a sidechain, yeah, I don't understand what you're asking here. Like not signal received. It's like you're speaking a different language to me, bro. Like without receiving any sidechain signal. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you're asking or what you're talking about. Maybe you can drop a link here for everybody so they can check out what you're talking about. Jason Joshua is awesome. I chat with him on Instagram, DM and stuff. You know, he's always showing me his new plugins and stuff. He's got a new one coming out with his drum bus. You know, he's got a drum bus plugin. So hopefully I'll get the beta for that and I'll be able to test it and check it out. But yeah, man, he's been a mentor to me for sure, like over the years with the mixing stuff. And Dave Pensato really mentored him. So it's cool to see him like passing information to people and getting on mix with the masters and stuff. He's a fucking goat, man. His mixes are so good. And it seems he's got a really good team too. Like I don't want to not compliment the people that are helping him set up his sessions, do the editing, do the vocal tuning, the things that really make you a great, you know, mixing engineer are the people helping you, and you know, everybody has help. So let me do this new clip or new track, right? Bada bam, and then we can just A/B this motherfucker. So let's go reference, and then we'll go back and forth on this, and I'll switch my solo mode here. So go to options, go to solo mode, and we'll go XOR, which we can just bounce back and forth, which is really fun. So let's hear it. Let's hear the A/B.
You get down to tell us with a heart bigger than the sea. Time and space stand still when you come back to pick up me. People tend to digress. It's such a meaning inside the trees. Forgetting we were created by the creator.
Sounded pretty damn good. A couple things I obviously am going to do is a little bit of automation. I think on the verses, the drums are too big, right? So I need to kind of bring those down because they're pretty hairy. Now, I kind of like them like that, but you know, I'll let Ryan let me know. Thanks for the super chat, man. Appreciate that, bro. Giving all the tips for the marketing budget, bro. Appreciate you. What's up, Paul? Yo, love you too, man. I don't know you, but I love you, bro. Yeah, you're welcome, man. Of course. All right, what do you got? If you have time, just try setting it in exterior mode. I never use that option when got particle, but some of viewers told me about it. I could say more about it, but the plugin actually sounds different. So you're saying on the sidechain, bro, like, let me see, the particle. The particle. The exterior is what you're saying, right? Sidechain. Got it. Okay. I'll check it out. Thank you. Thank you for the tip. All right. Like I said, I don't really have a need to change it, but yeah, I'll listen to it. Yeah, you never know. You never know. I appreciate that. Gave that vocal that GTA 80s glow. Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, the depth really came out, the width. Yo, thank you, Seth. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. You play drums on this? Is that right? If I remember. Part of the band. All right. That's what's up. You guys killed it. I love this. The track's super dope. The style is super dope. Let's gain match it as well, right? Like, why not? Let's try and give it a little gain match. Let's bring this one up. 5, 6 dB. We'll gain match these guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm saying this now. My heart goes out to each of you and myself. It's just what we have now to go through and be out loud. I'll say innocent is the way we see, believe, and ignorance is all you. And so be the word as if it has nothing to do with me and you. I'm now seeing a world that's different with me and you.
I don't know. Yeah, other one almost sounds mono, dude. That's 100% how I feel. I feel like we really cracked this bitch open. We're like, yeah, chicka-pow, boom, made it explode. You know what I mean? It's like, it reminds me of like those, that festival they have in India, you know, where they have like all the color, powder everywhere. You know what I mean? Like that's what we did to it. It's like, it was like just like a spray paint can. It was like, yeah, check out the spray paint can. And it's like, oh, it's a Indian festival of color. You know what I mean? It just blows up. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to sit on it. And then Ryan, tomorrow morning, I'm going to come to this with fresh ears. I'm going to make the last little tweaks and rebounce anything that I feel like needs to be done on it. And then I'll shoot it over to you, bro. Really hyped to get this in your hands. Again, if you guys got anything out of the live stream, please share the show. All you got to do is share the channel, subscribe, you know, show love, go drop some likes and comments on other posts. You know, I know you guys, if you watch other videos and you got some stuff out of it, like fucking go spread the love, man. And for you guys dropping super chats, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. These super chats support the channel. You know what I mean? Like, YouTube's going to take half of that, right? I'm going to take $5 of that. I'm going to be able to do more live streams and help you guys out as much as possible, you know? So I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you get the word out, let people know about this stuff, and I'll leave the live streams up so you guys can check them out and show Ryan some love when he's ready to drop the song. Go pre-save it, go stream it, all that good stuff. All right. Till next time. See you guys later.